Houston.
Houston, I used to live there. Go right ahead.
Welcome back to Power CEO's Truth Behind the Business. I am here with David Walker, former Comptroller General of the U.S., expert in economics, national security, and business. Welcome to the show, Dave.
Good to be with you, Jen.
Dave, there are a lot of questions. There is a new administration, and you've had a front row seat to major shifts in our country's financial and geopolitical landscape. With your decades of experience, what key economic and policy shifts do you anticipate under this administration, and how should entrepreneurs prepare for impact?
Well, first, President Trump won both in the Electoral College as well as the popular vote. And so he views himself as having a mandate. That's debatable, but that's how he views it. The biggest issues that he won on were the economy and fighting inflation, border security, and dealing with the illegal immigration problem and the consequences of that, and then providing more international stability because there's a lot less stability in the world today than there was when he was president. And so he's off to a very fast start. He obviously was president before. This is his second term and last term in office. He's spent a lot of time identifying the right people that he wants to run various agencies. He's identifying what he wants to do. He basically wants to try to shrink government, devolve more activities from the federal government level down to the state and local level. He wants to adopt what he calls America First policies, that it's not that we're not concerned with others around the world. It's not that we're trying to exit a number of the bilateral and multilateral arrangements we have, but everything that we do, in his view, needs to be focused on what's in America's interest first. And so, he's got a very high energy level, and I think the bottom line is buckle up and get your popcorn ready.
I see that. And, I work with entrepreneurs every day in a strategic coaching standpoint. And there's a lot of concern right now about tariffs and what will that do for us if maybe we have imports and whatnot, where there's concern about inflation and what will happen globally for those of us who are international. What are the biggest blind spots that entrepreneurs, investors need to watch out for as we buckle up and get ready?
Well, first, I think people need to understand that Trump views tariffs in a much broader context than traditionally has been the case. Historically, you would end up using tariffs on a targeted and hopefully a temporary basis in order to be able to deal with real or perceived inequities, on unlevel playing field, unfair trade practices, if you will. Trump views them much broader. He views them as a potential tool to achieve other ends. For example, in the case of Mexico, for Mexico to do more to try to be able to help secure the southern border, to allow the Remain in Mexico policy, to be able to deal with some of the drug cartels that are bringing in fentanyl and other illegal drugs, and also engaging in human trafficking. Canada to try to help do a better job on the northern border, and also some of the illegal drugs that are coming in through there. And then China, who obviously is where a lot of the materials to make the illegal drugs come from, and they may be created in Mexico or Canada, but the basic materials come from China. But in the end, I think that a lot of these things will end up getting worked out. For example, Mexico, that we were supposed to be tariffs, 25% tariffs imposed on Mexico starting tomorrow, which would be February 4th. But they've been delayed a month because the president and the president of Mexico spoke this afternoon. The president's supposed to speak with the Prime Minister of Canada. Hopefully, they'll reach some type of accommodation. Last thing we need is a global trade war. That's in nobody's interest, and I don't think that's going to happen.
Fantastic. I totally appreciate you breaking this down, because it really has been on the forefront of many people's minds. And I'm going to ask you, because of this shrinking of government initiative, because of this balancing budget, what unique opportunities do you see in the private sector that maybe we didn't have previously with the larger government as they downsource? I I see more opportunity in private business to take on some of the initiatives, such as infrastructure, such as artificial intelligence, and some of the other mandates that we've seen come down the pipes.
Well, the engine of growth and innovation in the economy is not the federal government. The engine of growth and innovation is the private sector. As I've said many times, the federal government's grown too big, promised too much, subsidized too many, lost control of the budget, is not managed to try to achieve results. Other than that, it does okay. But, I would say that's not good. So, part of the issue is you want the government to only do those kinds of things that it is uniquely positioned to do, and you want as much as possible to be done by the private and or not-for-profit sectors. But there's obviously a lot of pushback on that, and the president's got a limit as to how much he can do through his executive authority. Like for example, executive orders. They don't represent law; they represent policy. To the extent that you will need to make changes in law, you got to work with the Congress. And in some cases, if you want a constitutional amendment, that's a whole different process. And I think all three are on the table.
And so I'm going to ask you the next question, because as a former Comptroller General, you understand the importance of fiscal responsibility. Your book, America in 2040, Still a Superpower, A Pathway to Success, I recommend everybody pick it up. It's phenomenal. Your book explores these things. And given the current economic situation, national debt, et cetera, what lessons should business owners take from the government missteps in financial management?
Well, first, no company or individual should follow the bad example of the federal government with regard to finances, okay? Everybody talks about the $36 trillion in debt. That's just the tip of the iceberg. That's just the part that's above the waterline. There's another $90 trillion of liabilities and unfunded obligations below the waterline that could sink the USS United States. Contrary to the end of World War II, where we were growing the economy faster than the debt, we're doing exactly the opposite. Our fastest growing expense is interest, for which you get nothing. Healthcare costs are a major challenge, which we've written a blank check on. You can't write a blank check on healthcare; it'll bankrupt you. So there are a lot of things that are being done in the short term. DOGE, for example, is going to try to do what they can to cut spending and reduce fraud, waste, abuse, and mismanagement. But that's just a down payment. I mean, we're going to have to engage in comprehensive tax reform. We're going to have to engage in social insurance reform. We're going to have to reprioritize and reduce other discretionary spending if we want our future to be better than our past.
Thank you so much. And so I'm going to ask in closing, if you could give one piece of advice to entrepreneurs and executives who want not just to survive, but thrive in this new era where we're seeing these changes in the political landscape, what would it be?
Well, where there are challenges, there are also opportunities. And I think the biggest threat to our future, quite frankly, is ourselves. I think we have too many of our elected officials are living for today rather than taking steps to help create a better tomorrow. I think that business leaders need to become informed and involved to try to capitalize on some of the opportunities that will emerge as the federal government ends up doing less, but to also encourage their elected officials, not only with their words, but also their actions as it relates to their votes and political contributions to start diffusing our debt bomb. If we don't end up diffusing our debt bomb, then the future will not be as good as the past. And that's irresponsible, it's inequitable, it's immoral, and it needs to stop. And frankly, I don't worry about me. I worry about people like you, Jen. The young people's future are being mortgaged at record rates while investments in their future are being cut. That's not right. That's un-American, and I'm trying to stop it.
Well, I appreciate all the work that you're doing. And how can my audience learn more about your book and the work that you're doing so they can stay informed?
Well, go to the website americain2040.com. And then secondly, I'm fighting for a constitutional amendment to put our finances in order. You can find out more about that at ffsf.us.
Thank you so much for your time and your expertise today, David. I really appreciate you showing up for us.
Happy to be with you, Jan. All the best.